All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Around the Bases. I'm Chris GONZO Gonzalez, joined by the stat guy, Dustin Reese. How's it going this morning, Dustin?
It's going well, Chris. Just when you thought that World Series couldn't get any better, it threw us another curveball.
Oh, yeah. First combined no-hitter in World Series history. Javier pitched a gem last night. The Phillies couldn't get, after hitting 5 home runs the night before, they couldn't get one hit. But that's baseball for you. That's what's different about baseball than a lot of other games, because you might dominate one day and then the next day you might get dominated. You just never know in a baseball game. And hell, the Phillies might come back tonight and score 5 runs, and the Astros have trouble hitting. So, definitely been a fun World Series so far.
It actually has been. I expected it to be a very competitive World Series just because you had a Houston team that pretty much ran through the American League playoffs like it was nothing, and then you had a Phillies team that is one of those classic situations where they got hot at the right time, and they've been able to kind of ride that hot streak all the way through the playoffs to get to where they are. So I expected this to be hot at the right time, a very competitive World Series. I just did not expect to see what we've seen so far through the 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, game 3, you see 5 home runs, 7 runs scored without runner in scoring position. And then game 4, you get the first combined no-hitter in World Series history. And if I remember right, when the last no-hitter in World Series went back in the 50s?
Yeah, it was back in the 50s by Don Larson.
And
he was the only other one that had a no-hitter in the World Series.
That's a long time. And then to be the first combined, because when I ain't gonna lie, when they took out Javier, I thought the Phillies would at least get maybe 1 or 2 runs off the bullpen. Just what I mean, just because it was such a big lead, sometimes the pitchers aren't locked in as much. But hey, them guys were locked in, and the Phillies didn't really hit hardly any balls hard either. Even the ones they put in play, the hardest one they hit was Schwarber. The one down first baseline that was barely foul early in the game. Other than that, they really didn't hit nothing hard.
Yeah, and that's what makes baseball such a fun but yet such a hard game to comprehend and understand, because you had this Phillies team that couldn't miss on Tuesday. It's like everything that Lance McCullers threw, the Phillies were just hitting hard. And then you look at last night with Javier on the mound, it's like the Phillies couldn't even make any contact at all.
Do you think that Thompson maybe left Nola in there too long? There were some people asking that last night.
I don't think he left him in too long, because you have a 0-0 game in the 5th inning, and that was really the first sign of trouble that he showed at all throughout the game. And a pitcher like Aaron Nola, a guy that has a very good Major League pedigree, a guy that's been one of the more consistent starters in the National League for the better part of 5 years, all he would have needed was 1 ground ball, and all of a sudden your jam that you're running into in the 5th inning now becomes basically a shot to get out of the inning. So when it comes to guys like Wheeler and Nola, I don't think he would have left him in too long, but if that would have been Ranger Suarez or somebody else in that same situation, then I would say he did leave him in too long. But knowing the pedigree and kind of the experience that Nola has, you got to at least give him an opportunity to try to pitch out of that jam. But that was just one of those situations where it didn't work out in his favor.
Yeah, and that's what I said last night. I didn't think he left him in too long, because it was 0-0, and the hits they got to get the guys on base weren't like they were hard hits. They were just little bloop singles. And he was 1 double play ball away from getting out of that. When there was 2 runners on, he gave up another hit, got bases loaded with Alvarez coming up. I understood why he took him out then. And then your reliever comes in, first pitch hits Alvarez. It's like, well, that ain't a good start. Uh, but you
And,
brought
and
your
that's
reliever into a real tough situation as well.
yeah, and that's another instance last night too where I don't like the earned run rule where if you get pulled out of a game in the middle of an inning and then a pitcher comes in after you and serves up like a 3-run home run, you're the one that gets charged with those earned runs. Like I understand that the runners on base are technically your responsibility, but you're not the one that served up the home run. So why are you getting charged with those runs? If the coach would have let you out there, you may have gotten out of that inning without giving up that home run. That's why I always when people look at the wins and loss statistics of starting pitchers and then they try to say like, oh, the pitcher's not worth X amount of money just because his wins and losses are not that great, but that's one of the more useless stats in baseball. You have to look at the earned run average and a bunch of other stuff as opposed to the wins and losses. But I just wish there was some way to go about it when you are pitching a good game, you leave with a 0-0 tie, and then all of a sudden your bullpen serves up like a 3-run homer. I don't think that pitcher should be charged with those 3 earned runs because he's not the one that served up the homer.
Yeah, but I agree partly with that because I don't know how you could change it, but I would change it because now if you look at like Nola's stat line for last night, people are going to say, "Oh, he didn't pitch a good game." He pitched a good game up till that fifth inning, and he gave up those 3 hits. So it wasn't like he struggled all game long. They didn't hit him like they did the first game.
No. And I didn't expect Houston to hit him like they did the first game. I think the first game for him was more just the nerves of being in the World Series and kind of letting that take over. Versus this game, he just looked a lot more comfortable. He looked like the Nola that everyone has grown accustomed to since he's broken out in the major leagues with Philadelphia. And he just, up until that 5th inning, you never felt like he wasn't in control. Like every situation, he felt like he was in control.
And like I said, in the 5th inning, it wasn't like they hit him hard either. It was just 3 singles in a row, and then after that they got I think like 4 or 5 hits in a row almost after because they got the 3, and then the batter got hit, and they got the couple of hits that scored the runs. I don't know. Maybe you could change the rule to where maybe they only give up like if the pitcher gets taken out, another pitcher gives up like a 3-run home run. Maybe only like half that run counts toward the starting pitcher or something. If you want to count something, but I agree with you. I don't like the way all the runs get charged to the starting pitcher when he's not in there no more. So it's out of his control. I mean, who knows if you leave him in, maybe he gets a double play ball. Next batter, well, probably not from Alvarez, but just say next batter gets a double play ball, and then maybe it only gives up one. He maybe only gave up 1 run out of that inning. You never know what could have happened if they left him in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which don't get me wrong, I think they made the right choice to take him out when he did. But
yeah,
I'm saying toward like with your argument about the runs, you could have left him in, and he might have made 2 good pitches and got out of the inning with just giving up one or nothing, 1 or 0 runs.
Yeah.
But now he gets charged with all. What he got charged with? What 3 of them?
I think so.
Yeah, the 3 on base, and then the other. I can't remember that reliever's name. Alvarado. He got charged with the other 2. Right now it's saying that they're going to start Syndergaard tonight. Does that surprise you that they're going to go with Syndergaard and not Willard? That don't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, to me, this is a must win for the Phillies because you don't want to go to Houston and have to win 2 in Houston. If you can win this game, then you only have to win 1 on the road.
I understand that there's technically 3 games left in this series. Obviously, the first one to win 2 games wins the series at this point, so it might go 2 games, it might go 3. But the season is over for the Phillies if they lose tonight. There's no I don't see any scenario where they win 2 games at Houston, and I don't even see a scenario where they win Game 6 in Houston if they lose tonight in Game 5. Your season's on the line, and yet you're starting Noah Syndergaard, who hasn't started in the World Series yet, instead of going with your horse and your ace, Zach Wheeler, who has yet to give up an earned run at home during the postseason. It doesn't make any sense to me, especially when you have Verlander on the other side opposing you, and we've seen how good Verlander is in the playoffs, especially in the World Series. So if Houston's going to be sending their best arm to the mound, you would think that the Phillies would counter with their best arm, which is Wheeler. Now, I don't know if Syndergaard is going to be on a really short leash. I don't know if it's going to be kind of. I'm not going to say an opener because an opener only pitches 1 innings before they go to the bullpen. I could see it being maybe an extended opener where Syndergaard goes maybe four innings. They hope he can keep it close and then kind of hand things over from there. But even if he keeps it close, if he's losing 1-0 when they take him out in the 5th inning, it's going to be hard for Philadelphia to score off of that bullpen. That's why they need Wheeler to go tonight just to give him a shot to go up 3-2. Because if they go back to Houston up 3-2, if you want to start Verlander or start Syndergaard in Game 6, go ahead and start Syndergaard in Game 6. Because even if you lose Game 6, you still have a Game 7. You have Ranger Suarez lined up for Game 7 at that point. You'll have Aaron Nola basically ready to come out of the bullpen, and you'll pretty much have everybody available to come out of the bullpen. Even a guy like Wheeler who could probably give you 30, maybe 40 pitches, but you will have everybody lined up the way you need them to be lined up in that Game 7 if you go with Wheeler tonight as opposed to Syndergaard.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I thought for sure I'd wake up this morning and it'd be changed that Verlander was going to be the starter, or not Verlander, but Wheeler was going to be the starter instead of Syndergaard.
And I do think it'll be changed. I just don't see I just don't see a scenario where you can start Syndergaard over Wheeler tonight. I just don't.
Let's see, because tomorrow will be a day off. So hell, technically, you could have Suarez ready for Game 6 if you needed him.
He pitched
Tuesday.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday. He'd be on short rest if he goes. Yeah. So you would. He'd have to wait.
At the worst, you'd have him for Game 7.
Yeah.
And if you can win the night, and knowing you just got to win 1 out of 2, then I wouldn't feel as nervous about sending Syndergaard out there for maybe Game 6 and trying to get.
I mean, unless Philadelphia is hoping that win or lose tonight, they have Wheeler and Suarez lined up for 6-7. Then, but Houston's gonna have Framber lined up for Game 6, and then McCullers lined up for Game 7. I don't see McCullers pitching as bad as he pitched in Game 7 the next time around, and Philadelphia struggled against Framber the first time. So even if you want to save Wheeler for Game 6 and Suarez for Game 7, it might not matter at that point just because I don't see either one of those two pitchers on Houston's side struggling.
Yeah, and my thing is in the playoffs, it don't do you no good to save your bullets. I mean, you have to go all in, especially if you got a home game. Because if you win this game tonight, it puts the pressure back on Houston because they have to win 2 in a row. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a big game because who loses this game tonight, all the pressure is going to I'm going to say all because World Series you have pressure, but most of the pressure is going to be on whatever team loses tonight because then you got to win 2 in a row. And
for me, like I said, if Philadelphia loses tonight, the series is over. Whether the series ends in 6 games, whether it ends in 7 games, Philadelphia is not going to win the World Series if they lose tonight.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Even if Houston loses tonight, I'm still giving them a shot to win the World Series in 7 games just because they are returning home for 2.
Yeah.
And they do have McCullers. They do have other guys they can use that I have more confidence with in elimination games as opposed to Philadelphia where they have nobody on their team that's ever pitched in an elimination game before.
Yeah. No, yeah, I would say the Astros still have a chance if they lose, but I agree with you. I don't think the Phillies are going to win 2 in a row in Houston. But I think the Phillies could have a good chance. If they can win tonight, I still think they could have a good chance because you only got to get 1. And they were able to get 1 before, but it wasn't a closeout game either. And everybody knows how hard it is to get those final 3 outs in a closeout game, especially on the road. So it's going to be interesting. I hope Philly wins tonight and we go back to Houston because I think we might get 7 games.
Yeah.
You? I ain't gonna lie. I was hoping they'd leave Javier in there longer last night because he was in the groove. I wanted to see if he could get just a no hitter by himself.
Well, we all know how analytics in baseball work now, so you're getting to that point in the sixth, seventh inning when you're going to start facing a lineup for that third time.
They're going to yank
There's
you
not too
out.
many managers that are going to leave you in, especially during the playoffs. Even if you do have a no hitter on the line, there's not too many managers that are going to leave you in to face a lineup for a third time, even if you
Yeah.
do have a no hitter intact.
And with the analytics and everything, we might not ever see another another no hitter in World Series history. That isn't a combined no hitter like last night. Just because, like you said, the managers pull these guys so quick, and we haven't seen one since the 50s. Well, now they don't leave pitchers in as long, so we might never see just a pitcher get a regular no hitter. I think the no hitters that we see from now on in the World Series are probably going to be combined.
I think 90% of them are going to be combined. I do still think you could see individual ones if guys like DeGrom are pitching, or Scherzer, or Shohei, or even Verlander for that matter. Guys that you know can give you 120 to 130 pitches without really breaking a sweat too much. Those are the ones that I could see going the full 9 innings on their own, just because they've been there, done that, and a manager's going to basically trust them until they physically can't trust them anymore. But younger arms and pitchers who may have not be in those situations before, I think combined no hitters are going to be the way to go, because a no hitter is a no hitter any way you look at it. It's just not going to go down in the stat column for that starter as he finished the game as a no hitter.
And Christian Javier, he had his little kind of coming out party last night, showing or kind of introducing himself to the world. Because there's, I mean, we both know who it was because we watch a lot of baseball, but there's the casual fan probably didn't have no clue who Christian Javier was, and now since he kind of helped make history, a lot of people are going to know who he is now,
Exactly.
and going to help him when contract time comes around. You think you think Verlander will have a more dominant start tonight than what he's had maybe in the first game of the World Series?
I think he will, because look at the entire playoffs in general for Verlander. Pitched game one against Seattle, he did not look good. Pitched game one against the Yankees, he looked okay, but then he came back and pitched later in that series and looked great.
Yep.
And then he pitched game one in this series too, and again, he didn't pitch very well. So, I mean, the first time around, Verlander has not pitched well, but then if he got a second shot at it, he was much better the second time around. So I fully believe he's going to be a lot better. The question is he going to be good enough to win, especially if Philly does make the change that they should make, but he's going to be fine. It's Justin Verlander. It's not like he hasn't been in this situation before. It's not like he hasn't pitched in big games before, and he's kind of one of those pitchers that has not only been consistent his entire career, but he seems to be one of those rare guys that always gets better with age.
Yeah, that and this could be his final start with the Astros.
It could be, but realistically, I don't think it will be. Just because he's 38 years old, going on 39. Somebody's going to take him on a 1 or a 2 year deal next offseason. I just think it would have to be Houston, because I don't think anyone's going to pay him 20 to 25 million a year for basically 1 or 2 years at age 39.
What do you think the keys for tonight's game is going to be for each team to win? I think with the Phillies, they need to score early in the game, put some pressure on Houston.
It's not just about scoring early. Philadelphia needs to get to Verlander early. And I know a lot of times you have managers and hitting coaches trying to get teams to be more patient when you have a good pitcher on the mound. But for a guy like Verlander, you don't want to be patient. You want to be able to attack that first pitch fastball. You want to be able to attack that first fastball you see, so you avoid seeing his slider, and you avoid seeing his secondary pitches, which have been a much better this year than what they have been the last couple of years. So the key to Philadelphia is not necessarily scoring first, which, yes, they got to score first, but it's more so getting on Verlander early, getting on those first pitch fastballs, and just getting pressure on him early to kind of make him throw a lot of those high leverage pitches.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Even if you're not getting, even if it don't turn into runs right away, if you can get some hard hit balls off of them early in the count, you're going to have a lot more success than not. Especially with
Mhm.
Verlander, a lot of times if he makes it through the third inning without you getting to him, he can really settle in, and then it could be a long night.
Yeah.
And then for Houston for Houston, they just got to keep doing what they're doing. Altuve still isn't hitting the ball very good, but it hasn't really mattered because you got other guys that have stepped up and hit the ball, and like Bregman got that big hit last night to get the RBIs, and then but you haven't seen that much in the playoffs where a team has put 4 to 5 hits together like that in one inning, like the Astros did last night to get those runs. It's usually a base hit or a double and then a big home run. You don't see that as much where you get 4 or 5 hits in one inning to score 4 or 5 runs.
No, you don't, and that's another thing that's really gone away in baseball is the rally innings because everyone's all about home run or bust now. Nobody cares about stringing 3 singles together to score a run or stringing a couple extra base hits together to score runs. But yeah, I think Houston had a good blueprint last night. Houston does hit a ton of home runs, but they showed last night that you don't need to hit home runs to win games in the World Series. So I mean that is something to keep an eye on tonight, especially. But for Houston to really have the advantage, they don't have to change anything. They have the advantage no matter what, just because they've been in this position before. They've been in the World Series before. They've been down in the World Series. They've been up. I mean, the position that they're in, it's nothing new for them. So even going into Game 5, they're going to have less pressure just because it's another one of those been there, done that situations for them.
I could have swore last night I read that this was the second no hitter in World Series. Now I just saw what they're saying it's the third.
No, it's the second.
That's what I was going to say. I just thought that's what I saw last night on MLB Network. It just said it was the third no hitter.
No, it should be two.
Because from what I read last night was the first combined no hitter in the World Series and the second since like 1955 or something.
Yeah, there've only been there's been 2 no hitters in the World Series, but there's been 3 in the playoffs. So maybe that's what they were referring to because the other one was Roy Halladay's no hitter in Game 1 of the 2010 NLDS.
Okay, maybe it said postseason and not World
Yeah,
Series.
so that could be what they're referring to because Don Larson not only threw a no hitter, but he had a perfect game in his World Series no-hitter. So I mean, his is.
I know. I didn't read that or hear that wrong last night.
Yeah, he had
postseason.
Yeah, he had 135 pitch, complete game, perfect game in his no hitter.
I don't know if we'll ever see that again.
Nope.
A manager led pitcher pitch 135 pitches in this day and age, he could be gone.
Yep.
Whether it worked out or not. Hey, I'm doing pretty good on my picks. The under hit again. I had the under the 7.5. They've had all these World Series games at under 7.5 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
I've took the under on almost every one of them. Been doing pretty good.
All right.
I was like, well, 8 runs in the World Series. I mean, yeah, sometimes you get games like that, but most of the time they're pretty close games, and you get a lot. Usually, you get a lot of 3-2 or 3-1 games like that. I know we haven't got those. We got a 7-0 and a 5-0, which is just crazy. You see one team dominate one night, and next night's the other team that kind of dominated, and it was in different ways too. That's another thing to me that makes baseball so much fun. You can win big in so many different ways, and you can win close games in so many different ways. I think that's a little bit different than other sports.
Yeah.
Because, like the Phillies on their when they won on Tuesday night, it was all home runs, but exploding a bunch of power. And then last night was a couple or 3 base hits, and then a double, a couple extra base hits to clear the bases. So it's just so many different ways that you can do it. And I think that's what makes baseball great. And one of the things that make baseball great. And I wish more people would give baseball a chance instead of just kind of writing it off.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of these people will say, "Oh, I'm not a baseball fan. It's boring. I don't watch it." Well, how when was the last time you sat down and actually or go to a baseball game? It's different. That's why I tell people go watch one live. If you go to a baseball game live, it's totally different than try and watch it on TV.
Yeah.
Because going to a live baseball game is one of my favorite things to go to. I mean, there's always something going on. Uh, there's I don't know, especially if you have young kids. There's a lot of things going on there. So I just wish more people would give baseball a chance. But that goes back to baseball not really marketing themselves correctly either.
Yep.
I think we need a new. I think baseball need. Do you think if baseball got a new commissioner, that might change things with the marketing wise?
Yes and no. Even a commissioner still has to figure out how to get rid of the blackouts. And I don't know if they're the ones that make that decision. I don't know if it's Major League Baseball itself, the players union, or whoever makes that decision, but something's got to be done to get rid of the blackouts. So until that happens, marketing really isn't going to help because you can market your product all you want, but if you still have those blackout games in there, you're still not getting the full viewership that you can possibly get.
That's true. Another thing I think they need to change, like during the playoffs, some of the games were on instead of being on like regular Fox that everybody gets pretty much. They had some of the playoff games have been on Fox Sports One,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that hurts them as well because there's not as many people. There's a lot of people that don't get Fox Sports One. If you know what I mean, if you don't have cable packages, and I know people stream a lot of stuff too, but regular Fox people that just have an antenna can get it.
Yeah, that's the thing too, though.
Cut down the eyes.
When you have multiple games going on at the same time, like whether one starts like 2 hours later, you need two different channels to put the game on. And yes, I know FS1 not everybody has, but you're going to run into that problem all the time, especially during the playoffs when you have so many games going on the same day, kind of around the same time. There's always going to be that one game that's on an odd channel, whether it's MLB Network or FS1 or TBS or whatever it is, something that not everybody has. There's always going to be that one game that's kind of the odd man out in terms of what streaming service they're on. But that's still only 25% of the games being on, which means you still should be able to market that other 75% of games and get it on a channel that everybody can see, as opposed to having them have to worry about blackouts and what people get to watch this game, what people don't, what people get to watch this game as opposed to that game.
Yeah, well, yeah, that and like because there was a couple times this postseason that it'd be the only game on. There wasn't even another game on, and it was on FS1. It's like, why isn't this game on Fox?
Yeah.
There's no other games going on. But that's one thing the baseball needs to figure out is that, like you said, the blackouts, and they got to market their young stars better, so where more people know who they are and want to go to the games to see them guys play.
Yep.
It's like we talked about yesterday. I know, like just here where I live, there's a lot of people that don't know who Mike Trout is, or there's people that don't know who Otani is. It's like, how do you not know who Otani is or Trout is? But it's they don't watch they just don't watch baseball, or they don't. But you don't see a lot of, even for the World Series, other than maybe on Fox. You don't see a lot of or commercials or advertisement about the World Series even going on.
Oh, I know.
And to me, that's just they're dropping the ball there. You should seeing something about the World Series all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, because think about it, when the NFL has the Super Bowl, that's all you see all week is commercials and advertisements for the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that's the TV networks or if it's baseball, or if it's a combination of both, but that's something whoever the next commissioner is, because Manfred ain't going to do. I don't think Manfred's going to do anything.
No,
man. Whoever the next commissioners need to try to figure out a way to fix that.
Yeah, Manfred's only in it for the money at this point, and obviously, the more games that people have to pay for, whether it's MLB Extra Innings, whether it's MLB.TV or just having people have to buy all these expensive cable packages just to get baseball, the more money he's going to make. And that's kind of what he don't care about the value of the product, and he doesn't care about how many fans can or can't get the game. He's just more about how much money he can make off of it.
And that's one of the problems is but you get that in anything. People start getting a little greedy, and then it can mess up a whole lot of things. How much longer do you think he'll be commissioner? I would say I didn't think he'd make it this long after he called the piece of metal and everything else. He's some of the stuff he's done. I'm surprised he's made it this long.
I think he makes it up until the next collective bargaining agreement, which I believe is 2025, 2026 maybe.
A couple more years.
Yeah, whenever that next collective bargaining agreement comes up is when I could see him either move on his own or kind of be run out of a job depending on the situation. But yeah, I just think he gets through because he helped navigate through COVID. He helped get us through basically 2 years of really COVID infected baseball. I kind of got to give him the benefit of the doubt on that because that was a real tough situation for anybody to be thrown into, especially baseball when you're 2 weeks from the regular season starting and you pretty much have to pack up shop and stop everything right where it is and then bring it back like 3 months later and try to just restart it at that point. So for that, I have to give him a ton of credit just for how he was able to do that. And I think the players gained a little bit more respect for him because of that situation, which is why I think he just gets through the next 2, 3, 4 years, however long it is until the CBA expires, and then you can maybe see a different direction happening at that point.
I still can't believe that they're starting Syndergaard. I thought for sure it'd be changed already.
Mm-hmm.
Phillies are the first team to be no hit in the regular season and in the postseason in the same year. That's not a good. That's not a stat on the side of. And it's Philly's first loss at home. It still says probable starters, Verlander and Syndergaard. So I mean, it could change all the way. Well, they can change it up to like 30 to 40 minutes before the game.
I think they have to have the lineup submitted an hour before the game.
Hour. I can't remember if it was an hour, half hour, what it was. I knew it was something like that. I'd be surprised, but hell, I was surprised when the Guardians didn't start Bieber there in their playoff series. I thought that was a mistake there at the end. They didn't start him, so who knows? But hey, these managers are around the team every day. They know their guys better than what I do.
Yep.
But I'd be putting from sitting on the outside in. I'd be putting Wheeler out there. Worry about. I want my best pitcher on the mound tonight, and then worry about winning the other two games after this game. If you can get this one, then you only have one, and you have a lot better chance of going to Houston and splitting than you do going to Houston and winning 2 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard any more about baseball going to Vegas?
Outside of basically it'd be the Oakland Athletics going there, not really, just because I don't know how long that stadium lease goes until. I don't know when that stadium lease ends or if there's a way for Major League Baseball to get them out of that stadium lease sooner than later just because of how crappy the facility is. All I know is Rob Manfred basically said he doesn't see Oakland getting a new stadium at this point, and because of that, he's going to move them to Vegas, but that's just still really bland. It doesn't really give you a time frame. It doesn't really give you much, and that's kind of where I lead up to the next collective bargaining agreement too, is that when they decide to make the move is during that period, because when that next collective bargaining agreement comes up, you can also bring up Major League Baseball expansion. And if you do a Major League Baseball expansion, each team, I believe, gets $400 to $600 million. So that's added money, added revenue coming your way, which is always what they talk about during those collective bargaining agreement meetings anyways. So I would say within the next 2-3 years is when I would say within the next 6 months is when they make the announcement official that Oakland will be moving to Vegas, and I would say within the next 2 to 3 years is when when that stadium and everything will be complete.
Yeah, because it'll have to be probably at least 2 or 3 years whenever they announce it, because you're gonna have to if they're gonna have to build a stadium in Vegas, it's going.
I mean,
That's gonna take a little bit of
they
time.
do have that stadium in Vegas that a lot of teams use for spring training, Cashman Field or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, worst comes to worst, you play there for a year while they're building your own stadium, or if you want to add on to Cashman Stadium, well, you just play with what you have right now, and then they can just start adding on piece by piece when
Yep.
they're on the road for like 6 days or 9 days.
Yeah, they need to. I think getting baseball in Vegas is going to be a good move. I really
I do
do,
too.
because Vegas is just. I mean, it's for once a popular place, but it's turned into a big sports town too now, with all the, like you said, all the major sports are have teams there now.
Yep.
And with sports betting getting so big, it's just I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So I think that's going to be a great move for baseball.
Yeah.
At least it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they expand the teams, and I hope they expand the playoffs some more as well. Add a couple more teams to the
Yeah,
playoffs.
if they expand baseball, they'll expand the playoffs by they'll go from 6 teams now to 8 teams on each side.
Yeah, I hope they do. I think 8 teams would be cool. Not give not having no buys. I think that's to me as a fan, I like that better. Not where
Yeah.
teams don't have to buy. You get to see more baseball, and I mean we've seen sometimes that getting that extra rest affects teams as well. So I think some of the teams would rather play in that first round than have that bye.
Yep.
I know you get to set your pitching staff or your pitching rotation how you want, kind of, but I don't know. I think there's more negatives that's been coming out of getting the extra rest than positives for most of these teams.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you said it before. Look how many teams struggled this year after that bye. I mean, almost every team didn't look good. At least their first game. Sometimes their first couple.
Yep.
Ooh. You got anything else you want to talk about baseball wise?
Nope. Let's just see if there's more history that's going to happen tonight. Otherwise,
Real quick, where do you put this World Series so far compared to the last few years? I think this has been one that been up there just as good or maybe a little bit better than the last few years. I know we ain't had like your classic 1-0, 2-0 games.
yeah, I mean,
the way we've had a lot of history made.
yeah, I mean, I'd put it around the top 5. It's so hard just because every World Series has something different. Obviously, with me being a Cubs fan, but you could probably ask a lot of even most casual baseball fans, 2016 to me is still the best World Series ever. Just because you look at the history that was on the line for both teams. You had the Cubs, who had the longest World Series drought in professional sports history. You had the Guardians, who have the longest World Series championship drought on the American League. So you knew something had to give.
Yeah.
And you just saw like how that unfolded. The Cubs were down 3-1, ended up rallying back to force Game 7. Game 7 goes into extra innings, and then the Cubs ended up winning it. You have to look at that Washington National Houston Astros World Series from 2018, I think it was, when the Nationals won it, where every team that won a game on the road. The home team did not win a single game in that World Series, and it was all won by the road team. So that actually was rather exciting just because you never see that happen. You never see road teams just go on the road and pick up wins the way that happened. I did like the COVID World Series with Tampa Bay and the Dodgers, even though it was played in a bubble. I just like seeing somebody not named Houston in the World Series and actually giving the Dodgers a pretty good fight, even though the Dodgers won that year. It was a good World Series, but yeah, I'd put Philly in the top 5 just because this isn't necessarily about the scores or the results or the things that are coming from it. It's more so about the history that we're seeing right now. The 5 home runs in Game 3, the second career World Series no-hitter, first combined no-hitter in the World Series. So it's just more about the history stuff that now that's making this World Series, I think, better than what people thought.
And the stat I saw where I had it messed up, they were saying it was Houston's third no-hitter in postseason history. Yeah, and like you said, the 5 home runs, seeing 7 runs scored without ever having a runner in scoring position, the no-hitter, just been a lot of different things. And like I said, I'm excited for the Knights game. I wish it was a day game. Them games, man, I don't know. Sometimes it's rough staying up late enough to watch some of them. I've actually got my sleep schedule a little bit better. Where I've been not up till 4 a.m. every night.
That's a good thing.
But all right. On that note, we're gonna get out of here. But appreciate everybody watching. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Gonzo Sports Room. Also on the All Sports All Plays Network. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's where I post everything about the shows at Gonzo Sports Room. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Talking about tonight's World Series game. We'll see what other baseball topics come out that we can talk about. Once free agency starts, we'll have a lot of baseball to talk about. This kind of a little slow period in baseball, which is weird to say when you have the World Series going on, but that's basically all that is going on in baseball right now. So,
yeah.
Don't forget, check out the ASAP in the Morning show. Starting here basically right after us, here in about 7 or 8 minutes. But I appreciate everybody watching. On behalf of the Stat Guy, I'm Gonzo. We will see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern for another episode of Around the Bases. Everybody have a great Thursday.
Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.